Okay, I intentionally paused for a moment because I wanted you to wonder what the heck is going on with Scott's workbench. I don't recognize that machine on the left, you're probably saying, but I do certainly recognize that machine on the right. The one on the right is obviously a Husqvarna green machine. Specifically, it's a Type 21. And this machine right now is being finalized for Francine, and I'm hoping to get it shipped out yet this week and get it sent to her. This other machine over here is a much more contemporary Husqvarna Viking, and the model specifically is a Platinum 750. It's kind of even fun to say, isn't it? A Platinum 750. I wonder if Husqvarna Viking will ever come out with like a titanium or something like that. I mean, they always escalate things up that way, you know what I mean? So the machine on the left, this Husqvarna Viking Platinum 750, is one of the last Husqvarna Vikings from a contemporary standpoint that was actually made in Sweden. This machine was brought to me by a hardcore local quilter. Her name is Mary Ann, and Mary Ann, this is her baby. And I know she has other machines as well, but she kind of saw one of my local ads in the newspaper and decided to reach out, you know, a little bit hesitantly. You might remember Rachel that brought that newer FOF machine, that newer FAF machine to me, and was like, you're a vintage guy, do you know how to work on those? Yeah, absolutely. Sewing machine is a sewing machine to me, whether it's got a plastic housing or whether it's got a metal housing like this vintage Husqvarna furthest to my right. And so she needed it gone over. It was really a filthy machine. Like I said, she is a hardcore quilter, and this machine had gone through the works. She goes to about 8 to 10 quilting retreats every year, and it gets tugged along and dragged along, and it showed every sign of that. So a lot of the work on this machine was getting it just, you know, debunked and degirdied and dirtied and all that kind of stuff. It was just a mess. And also I'm going to be posting some shots on Facebook of taking this machine apart, the Platinum 750, and getting on the inside of it as well. Kind of some unique things I found in there, and you'll see those in the still shots, so you'll want to check that out. If you normally don't go to Facebook, go to my Facebook business page just so you can see those detailed shots of servicing this very contemporary Husqvarna Viking Platinum 750. Francine's machine, a lot of the stuff I've done off camera, but I will be obviously doing some confirmation sew-offs before that gets shipped out to her, and she gets to enjoy it and just have a blast with it. I wanted to highlight a couple of things about these machines. First of all, if I kind of lean back a little bit and you look at these machines side by side, you can see that this Platinum 750 has a pretty high profile to it. The Swedish, and again, this is a Swedish made machine. Some of the newer ones are made in, I mean, everywhere from Vietnam to Taiwan, you name it. I mean, the Husqvarna Vikings after this model, I mean, they were made all over the place. And as soon as you take a machine like this that is being controlled by the Swedish, and they're really persnickety about the way things are done and the way the machines are put together, like Mary Ann's machine, things start to go south pretty quick. So I'm really thankful that she happened to get this Platinum 750 prior to the machines starting to get manufactured all over the place, where they were looking to really just cut labor, quite honestly, and to make the machine more cheaply in every respect. So the one thing I wanted to highlight, you know, it looks big and meaty, right? It's designed as a hardcore quilting machine. But the first thing I want to point out is that this Husqvarna Viking Platinum 750 only comes with a 0.85 amp motor. Now that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's a pretty muscular motor. And it actually comes with a power pack in the bottom. You'll see that in the Facebook still shots that I'm going to post, where you can go either with traditional American voltage, or you can take this machine to Europe and run it that way as well. So it's got that power pack for converting that energy, and then the motor is mounted about halfway up the machine, as you'll see in the still shots, and that's that 0.85 amp power supply. Now that's impressive, okay? And it's Swedish made, but this is Swedish made as well, and this has that very coveted 1.5 amp Swedish motor. So if you were going to try to equal the power in this machine, Mary Ann's machine, to Francine's machine, you would have to add this potted motor, which this is not going to be sold, by the way. This is just kind of a testing motor that I have. But this is the same potted motor that goes on the Rolls-Royce of Singers just to my left, off camera. And it also goes on the Singer 1591. It's 0.6 amps of power, and it's direct drive, and it is a meaty type motor. So you'd have to put this motor inside of Mary Ann's machine to equal the power of Francine's machine over here. You're basically looking at 0.85, and then you're taking, subtracting basically 1.5 from 0.85. You can tell math is not my strong point. And you end up with 0.65. So really, this motor plus Mary Ann's machine plus basically a featherweight. I should have had a featherweight as well, you know that? So you're taking Mary Ann's machine, 0.85, 0.6 amps plus 0.5 amps, which is a little bit more than a featherweight, and you're putting all of that into this newer Husqvarna Viking Platinum 750 in order to equal Francine's Type 21 Husqvarna with that 1.5 amp Swedish engineered motor. That's impressive. I mean, this green machine, it's got a lot of power. Even compared to a bigger profile, muscular quilting machine like this, it's just hard. It's nearly impossible, unless you go commercial grade, to beat the green machine class within the Husqvarna Viking vintage family. It's just that cool. The other cool thing, and I'm not going to take away from Mary Ann's machine. I enjoyed sewing on it, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Hopefully you'll be able to see the stitch work that it did. I did a single layer of full grain leather. I also did, I believe, 4 layers of heavy grade denim, and it did a spectacular job. It doesn't quite have the hum that the vintage Husqvarna does, but it did a good job. I'm going to put this down though. This is getting to be like a little bit of a exercise, you know what I mean? So again, the distinction I'm trying to draw is power. Husqvarna Viking builds this 0.85 amp Platinum 750, rock and roll. But if you really want to rock and roll, reach out to me about the potential of getting a Type 21 or a 21A, and then you really are going to rock somebody's world. So I'm going to set down this extra motor that you'd have to throw into that to really get it going, and I'm going to show you the stitch quality on Mary Ann's machine. I'm going to kind of flip my screen around, and we'll kind of zoom in a little bit, hopefully be able to show off some of those stitches. It really did a lovely job. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So I did multiple rows. What I did is basically I changed, using the computer setting on the screen, different lengths. I think I started with, right around 5 stitches per inch or something like that. It went down pretty far, and then I went up to about 8 stitches per inch. But you can see Mary Ann's Platinum 750, in my opinion, did a really, really nice job going through that single layer of full grain leather. It's a good looking stitch, it really is. And then if you go over here to the denim, where you've got about 4 layers, and it's going to be kind of tough. Yellow on blue, man, oh man, you'll go blind trying to stare at that. But it also did a real good job going through that as well. And I know you can't really see much there, but I'm just kind of showing, kind of panning down to show you that. But again, on the leather standpoint, and I don't believe that she uses her Platinum 750 for leather sewing. That's just not her thing. She is a hardcore quilter, like I said, and that's really her passion point when it comes to her Husqvarna Viking. But the other thing I want to show you, let me move that again. I'm kind of showing you my lamp there, which isn't horribly impressive, but let's see here. Why don't we start on the, now you know what, it's going to be awkward. I'm going to have to get up, get down, and zoom in and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you both machines. I'm going to move that lamp up that's kind of blocking the 750 right now. Let me bring that up a little bit. Hopefully I can see what you guys are seeing. Yeah, and I'm way to the right, so this is kind of awkward. I'm trying to get my sweet spot balance here so I can actually lean into the camera a little bit and you can see me along with the machines. Let's also talk about sewing space as well. We talked about power, 0.85 versus 1.5 over here with Francine's Type 21. Let's also look at sewing harp space as well, which is a critical factor. And I know it's particularly critical to quilting folks. I mean, that is a touchy area that they really want to maximize that, you know, as much as they can. So when we look at the Husqvarna Viking Platinum 750, which I didn't mention, retails probably around $3,000 when it was new, $3 to $4,000. So it's not a cheap machine. My average price for a Type 21 Viking is right around $650. So you can do the math. About 1/5 the cost for a machine that has, as you'll see, a lot more workspace, a lot more power, and is engineered, you know, they're both engineered Swedish, but I would argue, having gone through these machines meticulously, that the vintage 21, Type 21, that's going to go to Francine, they just put a little bit more magic into it. And you'll also notice on the bed, when I kind of lean back a little bit, I've got 4 cams sitting out there. 3 of those 4 cams is going to go to Francine. 2 of these are actually duplicates. But I wanted to evidence the point that one of the strong points of the Platinum 750 is it's got a fairly robust selection of stitches that you can choose. Easy to punch them in on the screen, and you can go away and have just a really, really awesome variety of decorative utility stitches. But you can do the same thing with a Type 21. And each one of these cams is going to have 5 stitches. There's always a built-in zigzag on there to set the parameters and the swing of that needle so that it doesn't strike the plate. If you ever have a green machine and you don't have a cam in the back of it, do not operate it, especially with a zigzag or one of the decorative patterns where that needle is going to swing, because in all likelihood, unless you're really fortunate, it's going to hit that plate and you might have a broken machine. So, but I wanted to highlight the point that with each one of these cams basically having 5 stitches, you're looking at 20 stitches potentially with one of these green machines. And I didn't count exactly how many stitches are on Mary Ann's, but I wouldn't say it's probably much more than 20. They're kind of lined across here. Let's see, well, I stand corrected. It looks like if you add everything, you're looking at about 35 stitches, but some of them are kind of similar. So, you know, a lot of similarities, right? And a lot of strengths you have to weigh as a hardcore quilter or someone that's really looking for that muscular machine to give you a lot of diversity in how you want to sew. So let's measure this puppy, okay? I've got both of these are going to be free arm machines. I'm going to leave the bed on as it normally would be if you're going to be doing sewing, and I'm going to measure from end to end, basically from the end of the bed to the pillar, and you're looking at about 10 inches, okay? If we measure the green machine, and I don't want to scratch Francine's machine or I'm going to be in the doghouse, you're looking at about 14.5 inches. 14.5 versus 10. So you're looking at almost 5 inches more length workspace on the Type 21. If you're looking from front to back on the Platinum 750, you're looking at probably about 6.5. And I think that's going to be pretty close to the green machine. No, I'm wrong. You're looking at about 8. So you're looking at 1.5 to 2 inches more width on the Type 21 versus the Quilter's Dream Platinum 750. The last thing I want to measure is the harp height space. So here you're looking at a clearance of about probably about 4¼ inches. Not quite 4½, 4¼ about. And on the green machine, you're looking at about 4½. So you know what? The height in the harp space on the two machines is pretty close. The other ones, you can spin it back and listen to the measurements again. There's a pretty significant difference between the overall bed length, the depth of the bed, and what that translates to being as far as your workspace when you're a hardcore quilter or a sewer of sorts. So, you know, the machines side by side, when you're looking at power, pretty significant difference. Workspace, pretty significant difference. So if any of you out there are just hardcore quilters and you're trying to say, I've got a machine similar to Mary Ann's, and I'm looking at a second machine, a machine that really will have, you know, even a little bit more gusto, maybe even a little bit more workspace, let me encourage you to look at one of my fully restored green machines. I've got 2 of them, I think, available right now. One may already be spoken for. All of mine come from the original owner. They haven't been passed around, and the maintenance history is well known to me. Plus, I've gone through them with a full tooth comb, fine tooth comb, and a full tooth comb, if that's a thing. But you know, I'm starting to have more contact with quilters in this area from running my local ads, and I'm really delighting in having an opportunity to educate them on what vintage could look like to them. They don't have to give up their Platinum 750. This is a fine machine. Like I said, it's one of the last machines that Husqvarna Viking made that actually was made in Sweden. I mean, that's significant, because that means a lot as far as the way that machine was put together and how it was built. But you know, if you're looking for a machine that's going to give you more grit, more power, more space, and you're a hardcore quilter, I would strongly encourage you to look at one of my green machines. And I think you'll immediately, if you get it in your home and you sew, you know, in your sewing space, in your basically your area where you're quilting and making those creations, you're going to start to really find yourself shifting over a little bit in some respects to this vintage machine that you would get from me, because it's going to give you a lot of the same things and even a little bit more than maybe what you're getting from your contemporary Husqvarna Viking. This is not a knock again. I want to make that very clear, because I know Mary Ann is going to be referring a number of her friends that are local quilters, and unlike her, who is not a Facebooker, is not a YouTuber, a lot of these other folks are. So I want to be very clear. This is not a knock to a newer Husqvarna Viking like Mary Ann's Platinum 750. It's simply saying, you draw the comparisons, you measure them side by side as I have, and I think it's going to cause you to pause and to look at the idea of having a machine like this as well as a resource to you if you're doing some hardcore quilting like Mary Ann, and you're looking at going to quilting retreats, you know, 7 to 8 times a year. That's a lot of quilting retreats. And wouldn't it be fun, instead of taking your Platinum 750 to one of those retreats one time, taking a Husqvarna Viking 21 vintage model like this and just having people going, what is that? So you guys be the judge. Make some posts, make some comments, whatever you want to say, whether you're a quilter or not, and let me know what you're thinking. I value your input, and again, I think they're both fine machines. They really are. I would not have a machine on my workbench if I didn't think it was worth my while. And this machine is a great machine. This is a great machine. I've got my bias, you know. All right. You guys keep watching, stay tuned, and thanks so much for being a subscriber.